Welcome to the You Can't Afford Me podcast, where we skip the fluff and dive straight into the grind. Real entrepreneurs, real struggles, and the unfiltered journey behind success. Let's get into it. Hey guys, thanks for coming to another episode of the You Can't Afford Me podcast. So one thing I love about doing this podcast is sometimes I get to meet and talk to people that I don't know in everyday life. And came across this guy and was like, man, this is somebody I got to sit down and chat with. So today I'm sitting with Rob Long. Rob, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great. How are you?
Awesome, man. So first, give everybody like a quick 30-second spiel about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so born and raised here in Richmond, Virginia. After college, I had a brief stint in investment banking.
Oh.
My old boss jokes that I was the world's worst investment banking analyst. Super ADD and dyslexic, which can kind of be my superpower in my new arena. But as an investment banking analyst, I was terrible. When I moved back to Richmond in 2017.
Where were you living when you were doing
Boston.
Oh, okay.
So I was Boston, Charlotte, and a brief stint in Texas.
Gotcha.
And moved back home and had had enough with corporate America and quit my job in the end of 2017 and started building River City Roll.
Nice.
And that was kind of my first step into the entrepreneurial world.
Gotcha. All right. So a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So first, what brought you back to Richmond? Because from Boston to, huge sports scene up there. So that's got to be
love
awesome
sports.
area.
That was the best part about Boston. It's so freaking cold. I
was about to say the weather is probably what would keep me
couldn't
out of there.
Even my dog didn't want to go outside. I was like, this isn't it. I love Richmond, and I'm glad I left and got to experience some other things. And the River City Roll model came from my experience at similar places in bigger cities, and just in my early 20s, single, nothing to do, like we started every night at the bowling alley, pitchers of beers, hanging out before going out. And I'm so glad that I got out and got to experience it. But I always knew I wanted to come back to Richmond. Richmond, that I came back to is so different than growing up here, and it's even more different today. I think that it's a really cool place to be and an incredible place to raise a family.
Oh, for sure.
And I knew I'd always be back. I didn't think it would be that soon, but the timing worked out.
Gotcha. So talk to us about that transition from corporate America to being an entrepreneur, because I talk to people all the time where it's never this perfect picture thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to start this little side hustle. Now the side hustle, I'm making 3 times as more as I am during my day job. So obviously it makes sense for me to quit my day job. What was that transition like for you?
Well, I'd love to know the side hustles that are making 3 times the day jobs. The River City Roll Start was not that.
Yep.
Luckily I was young and dumb enough to walk away from a steady paycheck in things like healthcare and stuff that you kind of take for granted in corporate America, 401k matching and all this stuff that like in my 20s I didn't really care about. But now with family and kids, I'm like,
I'm not worried about 40, 50 years down the road.
I was like, what am I saving for? I think like when I quit, I think I had $15,000 in the bank. A kid paid off my car, I think. Had a TV and a couch in the Cookie Factory lofts in Scott's Addition. And, the idea for River City Roll, I'd always wanted to open a bar. Even back in college, I went to UVA and always tried to work, on the corner at bars and kind of be in the scene. And I knew I always wanted to do it. Everyone knows about 1 in 3 restaurants fail, right? Yep. And the beauty of River City Roll concept is you add that third revenue stream with bowling. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little here, but I knew I wanted to do it. The parking lot behind where I was living was kind of overgrown. Obviously Scott's Addition was hot back then, not as hot as it is now. I kind of joke that we got in there in about the 3rd inning. I think it's probably, 5th or 6th inning now. Yeah. And there was a for lease kind of sign that had been kind of grown over. I don't think the developers had really put a lot of thought to that parking lot. And I'll admit here publicly for the first time, my last probably 6 months on my job at BB&T Capital Markets looked like I was working late nights, but all I was doing was River City Roll planning and modeling. And I took, all the money I had to my name, put it into the kind of initial architectural drawings. and kind of the pitch deck and like the concepting. And, you know, I remember when I called my parents and told them I was quitting my job, and, you know, typical parents are like, wait, you quit your good job? You know, good job is so,
Yes.
it's such a dumb term.
Wait, did your mom say what my mom said? The first thing my mom said when I told her I was quitting my good job and becoming an entrepreneur, she said, the first thing out of her mouth was, well, what about your health care?
Yeah.
I was like, working for somebody else at a job that I hate is bad for my health. Like,
yeah. Exactly. It's like, what part of healthcare are you talking about? Like my mental
Yep.
health?
Yes.
Certainly that, yeah. Pretty much the same spiel. Just gave me pretty much the same spiel. And it was like, you know, I was fortunate enough to have my parents help me with my education. And, you know, I did get a little bit of that. Like, hey, you know, you're on your own, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine. I like a little pressure. And I even remember the developer, one of the few people working for the development team, was like, he hadn't known I'd quit my job yet. And, you know, River City Roll is a $6 million project. I needed to raise $3 million, and then the bank was going to give me the other $3 million. And this guy, who I'll remain nameless, was probably more worried about it than I was, clearly. And he's like, this is risky. Don't quit your job. And I was like, I quit last week. And he was like, what the? And I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, you're crazy. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but
you got to be.
Like the thing I told everyone was like, if I want to go back to a pretty nondescript banking job,
you can always
I can go
that.
back.
You can always find it.
And I was lucky enough at the time to be single and not really have any bills, and not really, no one was counting on me in terms of income. Yep. So it was like, I was, 27-year-old single guy living pretty lean. I had my apartment bill, and that's about it.
Yep.
So it
so
was funny. She changed her tune though quick. Like the first article I did with me and my partner, Ben Eubanks, we ended up luckily being on the front page of the Richmond Times above the fold, and which is hilarious. I never knew that term, but as soon as there was a little bit of press, my mom thought it was the greatest idea ever. I'm so proud. We haven't made a freaking penny or built anything yet, but I'm glad all it took was a little ink for you to change your tune on this.
So talk to me about, because your every business up to this point, I think I've started 9 or 10 businesses.
That's awesome.
All from the ground up, which I've been saying I'll probably never do that again. Moving forward, I do want to own more businesses, but I'll probably buy an existing business versus starting something from scratch. So I've never had anything. All my businesses.
What's that term? Based. What's that term? It's kind of a buzz term now.
Serial entrepreneur?
No. The purchasing. God, I see it on LinkedIn all the time. I feel like the entrepreneur by purchase or kind of.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. Yeah. My girl Cody Sanchez, she's probably my favorite entrepreneur in the world right now. She's like the female version of Gary Vee. Her whole model is showing you how to buy like existing businesses and this big wealth of transfer.
Well, entrepreneur by acquisition, I think.
Okay, I hadn't heard that before. Yeah. So with opening up like a physical building, obviously going from like a good paying job to like cashing out and having $15K in the bank.
Which went to zero in a day. So really zero.
So having little to no money and seeing that this project was going to cost you $6 million. First off, that jump from corporate America to entrepreneurship, and to go from entrepreneurship to looking at debt that way, I've had to kind of readjust my brain in terms of everything I built up to this point has just been from the ground up. This past year was the first time I've used OPM, other people's money. And it was one of the best decisions I made, because I realized I can't truly scale this business up to the way I want it if I'm not using other people's money. So what was the thought process? Was there shock involved in that when you like found out how much it was going to be to put something like this together?
I kind of knew, and I didn't really have a choice. I had to go the OPM route. Had to use other people's money because I didn't have any.
Yep.
The beauty of my corporate job was that I was on the debt side of investment banking, so I had kind of become numb to leverage and debt because I did it.
You got to educate. You got a paid education,
right? Like, and I knew. Now, granted, I was working with big companies, right? Yeah. Like Fortune 500 companies, and they all have debt, right? And it's just kind of like, debt never scared me, and
Yeah, you were like, these guys are taking out $200
I'm like,
million.
I did a $500 million bond deal for these guys.
Yeah.
Like that's like everyone does debt, right?
So you're like, $6 million ain't nothing.
Talk to my pops, and if he has $5 of debt, he's like freaking out,
Yep.
right? You know, and so like I was always kind of numb to that piece of it. I think the beauty of Richmond, and I think maybe people from other towns will say this too, but I lived in a lot of places, and Richmond is so supportive of young Richmonders trying to do something cool.
Absolutely.
And I did have that as an advantage of being from here. I also coach high school lacrosse at Freeman High School, and I have a lot of, I work with a lot of people. And I knew I had a couple in my back pocket that were going to support me
Yep.
with dollars. And, the first check's always the hardest. And I found that, giving away some of my fundraising secrets here, but FOMO's a real thing for people that have money that they're investing. And I've found my most success to date is getting people in a room with a plug or two in the room that is a yes.
Yep.
And them putting their hand up in a group of people that all could invest. And then people start thinking more about the upside scenario, not the downside, if that makes any sense. And it's, oh man, I don't want Chris to get in and then me miss out kind of thing. So I remember like the River City Roll first big raise we did was at Ardent, and we had the back room at Ardent. Having some booze and people always helps a little bit too.
1,000%. Got to get them liquored up.
Got to have a couple beers in them. And, we knew we had some yeses in the room. And, I think that night we raised over half of the $3 million we needed to raise on the equity side. And it was all that kind of just like herd mentality, like group think, like he's doing it, I'll do it. I don't want to miss out. You do it, I'm doing it. All right. And everyone just kind of did it, which was great. And once you do it once, successfully, you earn a little bit of trust, and the next one gets a little easier.
Yeah.
The pressure never changes, though. The one thing about other people's money, especially when you do friends and family type raise, is the personal part of it, right? And I'm a competitive guy. I kind of like that fire. Some people don't. The bank money's easy to kind of, you don't have any emotional tie to it, right? It's like whatever. It seems like monopoly money.
But if your family sees you wearing a new pair of Jordans and you owe them $500,000,
my wife would be cracking up right now if she were to talk about shoes. It's kind of my problem.
Big sneakerhead too?
Big sneaker guy.
Dude, I just sold off my whole collection before we moved to this office. I had 150 pair I sold off.
Don't tell me you're 10.5.
I am a 10.5, dude.
Sucks.
Gosh. I had to get a kid in Atlanta to, I had to ship them out to somebody in Atlanta to get the whole collection.
Kicks Boomin couldn't do it?
No, dude, they were lowballing the hell out of me. I was like, I'm not only a businessman, but I'm a hardcore sneakerhead. Yeah. I know the value of what I have. I'm not just giving it away.
Yeah. No, I hear that. Well, I wish I'd known back then. I would have maybe got
we had met like 6 months ago, man. We could have made a deal.
My wife kind of gives me a hard time sometimes about it, but I, joke with her that, most of my sneakers are less than $150. I'm not buying them aftermarket, right?
No. If
I hit on the sneakers app, I take them, and if not, I'll try again. So.
Not paying $1,000 on resale.
No, I'm not paying $1,000 for shoes. That's crazy. Nah. That's crazy. But yeah, no, it's funny about that. Like it's true, and it's like you see these people that invest with you in all the time, and the day we got our Class C investors paid off at River City Roll was a great day. That ended up taking 5.5 years. I kind of give myself a little cred for the COVID. Was really hard. A 2-year pause.
Yeah,
so like,
for sure.
We kind of projected to be a 3-year payback, and it ended up being close to double that, but we did have the COVID curveball thrown our way. So
what was the percentage for investors? 5 to 15% return, somewhere in that range?
That's what we're gunning for. And we did it. We structured our raise as a convertible note. I think it was like 3%, pretty small coupon on it, but it converted when paid back. And so they're still equity owners today. Gotcha. And I think that there'll be a big catch up the way Scott's Edition's been. I think the real kind of big payday for River City Roll investors is the day that it goes away, unfortunately.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Which I don't plan on that happening anytime soon, because it does well. It's an awesome community place. I love bringing people together more than, a couple $1,000,000.
Yeah.
And I don't say that as because I'm numbed a couple $1,000,000. I don't have $1,000,000 yet.
Yeah.
But I'm not ready to let 12 stories of apartments replace River City Roll anytime soon. But
Yeah.
the return numbers should catch up the day that happens.
So on that note, though, because this is something I didn't really give the mental bandwidth I should have years ago, thinking about my exit. Now, I'm in no way, shape, or form thinking about selling off my media firm in the next couple of years. But as entrepreneurs, that is something that we have to think of, whether it's further down the line. And you talk about, the FOMO of those investors. Like I saw a post the other day. It showed the returns for everybody who originally invested in Uber. And there were people that put in $5,000 as an investment, and their return was like $25 million. And ones that were like $50,000 investors, they made like 75 to 100 million, like ridiculous. Like now obviously I would have never had an opportunity to invest in Uber, but just seeing that, I'm like, man, I got $5,000. Like
Heck
you're telling me I could make 25 mil?
Yeah, I'm in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the exit strategy, it's when we were thinking about it early on, pre-COVID mindset, my mind was very different.
So you thought about this like early on?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Pre-raise, because when you are raising money from folks, you want to show kind of all avenues to success, right? And hey, the operating business could be this, and if we get to where we think your returns are going to be high teens, low 20s, and we can run it as long as we're cool.
Yeah.
But also smart enough to know that no one in the hospitality space is the coolest for forever.
Yeah.
Like there's a shelf life, right? And there's always people with new and cooler ideas. As cool as I think River City Roll is, there will be someone that catches this at some point, right?
Yeah.
So you always want to be ahead of that. It's okay if River City Roll doesn't work as we think it's going to work. Here's our pivot.
Yeah.
Cool office space like your own, or apartments, right? So we had like downside change. Then it's okay. Exit strategy 1 is this works like we think. We're going to open 5 of these. When you get to 3 to 5 units in the kind of entertainment space where we play, is when you start becoming an acquisition target.
Yeah.
Reason I mentioned COVID is because that was our thought pre-COVID. COVID beat me up pretty good mentally. And we haven't opened any more bowling alleys.
Yeah.
I was actually in Raleigh the day Governor Northam texted me that the state was about to close. And we were at the table with a prominent real estate guy in Raleigh about to buy a building for River City Roll 2 in Raleigh. And thank God I got the text.
Yes.
Because that would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, I'm really sorry. I can't, in good faith, sign this LOI, knowing that my only concept is about to be forced to be closed for who knows what's going to happen.
Yep.
I hate that we missed on that because Raleigh's such a cool market. A lot of similarities to Richmond, and
I think that's in top 20 cities, like fastest growing cities.
I think River City Roll model would smash there, and if I wasn't so beaten up by COVID and the F&B, my focus would probably still be on bowling alleys and not on apps. But that was
nice little pivot there. Hey, maybe you could be hosting this. Nice little pivot there. So yeah, I wanted to jump into that. So you started a dating app. What's the name of the app? Surf. And you started this like 3 months ago?
So we have been live on the App Store for 18 months.
Oh, okay.
Our current version, part of that time was kind of our kind of beta version.
Yeah.
The foot we're happy to have forward now is live, and it's been live since October of last year.
Okay. So obviously big transition. Like, and people look at my career and what I've done in business and think like, man, these things are so disconnected. Like the first business I ever started was Richmond bubble soccer. You put on those huge bubble suits and played full contact soccer. So we had that for like 7-8 years or something like that. And then I started a valet laundry service. Then I had a media company. Then I got into vending machines, and I got into public speaking and all these different things. And some people I would talk to be like, man, it seems like you're just all over the place. Like none of these things are connected. But in my head, there was a plan, and these things were ultimately connected. So somebody can hear that and be like, man, this guy went from restaurants and bowling alleys to software development. Like, so what brought that about? What made you say like, hey, I need to get into this space?
Yeah. So, I kind of cut my teeth with River City Roll and Bar West, which we haven't spent a ton of time on Bar West yet, but I love Bar West on Grove Avenue here in the near West End. You know, elevated sports bar is probably the easiest way to describe it, but a nice new American menu where anyone with any sort of taste can come and find something that they want to eat and feel good about putting in their body, and great cocktails, and just an awesome place. But you know, full disclosure, surf, the kind of origin story of surf, I was not the true creator of it. A good friend of mine who is more of a numbers tech person was an early investor in Grindr.
Which I just saw the return on Grindr. Like, I just saw
let's just say it was not quite Uber dollars, but pretty close.
Yeah, the returns on that have been massive. And nobody talks about that.
And no one talks about it. And my good buddy was, at the time, early 30s, successful, had a nice financial outcome with that, and learned a lot about how it was built from a tech side of things. Grindr is different from most apps that people know about. Hinge, Bumble, Raya, The League, all these things, swipe-based apps, right? Kind of more of a gamified, hot or not swiping. Grindr's a grid, and the grid is just way more efficient. And in terms of finding a match. Now,
meaning there are multiple people up on screen at one time.
There's no algorithm picking the order of which pops up.
Wow.
There's no time wasted swiping. Everyone's on the grid, and you can kind of sort and filter the grid. So
that kind of like Plenty of Fish. That was like the only dating app I was ever on before I met my wife.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, I could like put criteria.
A little bit, yeah. Kind of a, no knock on Plenty of Fish, kind of just a better version tech-wise. But
Plenty of Fish was pretty bare bones. That sucked.
Yeah. But the concept,
I'll say it, I'm not in the tech space.
They were close on the concept. But essentially was like, hey, I'm sick of swiping. I'm going to get the stat wrong, but it's something like 800 swipes to find a match on the traditional. It's just, in terms of just like time, it's so inefficient, right? And it was like, I'm going to build a straight focused version of Grindr, essentially. And we're going to take learnings from that tech, make it better, and bring grid dating to the straight space first. And then obviously we're going to open it up to everyone because, you know, and this will kind of tie back to why I don't think it's that far of a stretch from River City Roll and Bar West to this now, given me being the CEO of the app and co-founder, is, okay, we have this product. We have an incredible development team in Serbia that's built it. I don't need to know anything about coding. The app's sweet, works, it's on. And I have spent the last 8 years of my life marketing to 22 to 32-year-olds at the bar, right? Which is our core focus for the app. So like, everything, all the learnings and stuff that I've been doing promo-wise for River City Roll and Bar West matched up perfectly. And I got the call, hey, Rob, here's the idea. What do you think? Hell yeah, let's go. I'm in. And, you know, I think that it just, the minute you see the app and the minute you get on the tech, whether you're single, married, whatever, you can just tell it works. And, you know, I like to say, like, the easiest comp is a Zillow for dating. And
man, put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. And like the comp works for like a million different ways of talking about surf, right? Not just the physical tech of, okay, it's a grid with filtering and sorting, just like Zillow, and everything's on it. But also to, you know, each kind of app has like a lane, right, that they go in, and I'm not going to define them all because that's not what I'm here to do today, but we don't want to be in a lane. We don't want to tell people how to use surf. We don't care how you use surf. We will build a piece of tech that we think is the best, most efficient way to meet someone for whatever reason you want to meet someone. We're not saying we're a find your wife or husband app. We're not saying a girlfriend or boyfriend app. We're not saying a one night stand app. We're saying our tech is just the most efficient way to find what you're looking for. Pick it yourself. And, you know, that's how Zillow is, right? Like, you have a $10 million house in Delray, Florida on there, and you have a $200,000 house in the middle of West Virginia on there, or wherever it may be. And people use the tech the same way because it's good and it's efficient. And, you know, that's what we want surf to be, where it's anyone, anywhere can use it, however they want to use it, no matter where they are or what league they think they play or not play in.
Yeah.
It's there. And, you know, also like Zillow, we want to always have a free version that anyone can use at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I like to think about like the LinkedIn model more on it, is where we'll have a free and then we'll have a paid. We're not going to have 9 levels like Hinge, where it's Hinge plus, super plus. And if you pay $200 a month, we'll guarantee that your match count goes up. Like, give me a break. No one wants AI picking stuff like that and fake algorithms feeding you profiles. It's like, we want to be fair. We want to be there for everyone. It's free or $4.99 a week. Less than a cup of coffee. You can see every single person you want to see. You do whatever you want.
So who are the people that are paying? Is that the person that, and I'm sure there's a mixed bag of that, but like, I would assume the person that's looking for a serious relationship, looking for their husband or wife, they're the ones that are going to pay for a premium subscription, and the ones that are on the free version, it's like, hey, I'm in DC this weekend. Let me look it up and see who I can hook up with this weekend.
Yeah, so I think, you know, that's going to be one of those ones that we kind of just track over time. I think it's too early to tell.
Yeah.
Like the kind of composition of what the paying and non-paying looks like. Some of the functionality on the app that we have, our mutual connectivity function, which is really cool, where like Robert Jones, like we talked about earlier, if you saw my profile, we would share probably more than just one mutual contact, if I had to guess, since you've been around Richmond for a while too. But at least I know we'd have one. And you would see my profile and it would say mutual contacts 1. And you could click on it and say Robert Jones. So then if you were to reach out to me and say, hey, Rob,
tell me about this girl.
How do you know Robert Jones?
Yep.
Or, hey, I used to work with Robert. And it's an immediate way to socially verify someone.
That's pretty cool.
So where our female users, it's really spoken to them because it's a safety thing.
Because they can now trust.
It's a trust thing. It's you can easily kind of fact check somebody.
Yes.
You also can steer clear of X's, you know, pretty quick. And you know, it's valuable. So that's something that would be part of the paywall. Like that's a paid feature, right? And the free will show your top 100, and then paid where you can see everybody on there.
All right, let me ask you this, and then I got another question following with that. Where'd the name come from? Why surf?
Surf the grid.
Ah, smart. Let me ask you this: how long have you been married?
No swiping, start surfing.
Oh,
yeah.
Man,
stop swiping, start surfing.
How long have you been married?
2, 4. Oh shit, I'm gonna get this wrong live on camera. Kate and I've been together for a long time. We've been married for 3 years now. I think this will be our 3rd or 4th anniversary this year.
All right. So
I'm gonna get in trouble for that.
Did you? Yeah. Me and my wife been married. Oh my God, my wife said something the other day. This will be our 7th wedding anniversary coming up this year. But I think we've been together like 11 years, something like that. I have a rule, since we're talking about dating stuff. Let me know what you think of this. Like, give me your opinion. I got this advice from Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. He says whether it's a business or a personal relationship, he gives everything 36 months. And so when I was dating my wife, I probably knew a year and a half, definitely 2 years in, that I was going to marry this woman.
Yeah. But you stuck to the rule?
I stuck to the rule. I said it's going to be 36 months. Because if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, what the hell is 3 years?
Yeah.
Versus these people that are running out and getting married after knowing somebody for 6 months. It's like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So I've shared that advice. Hopefully one of my boys' girl isn't listening to this, because he's currently on that trend and he's right at that mark this summer.
So then that's when the pressure comes in.
Yeah.
Especially if you share that mark with your significant other.
Yeah. Well,
then you know shot clock's on.
Oh, no, I did.
36 months in a day.
Yeah. I told her well after we got married, like it was a year after we got married. I was like, you know why I didn't propose to you this time? Because I knew she was begging for it. I was like, 36 months rule. Like, because he does the same thing with business. Like, if he invests in something on Shark Tank, he'll give it 3 years before he's like, all right, I got to wash my hands of this.
Yeah.
What, as somebody in the dating space, what do you think about that advice?
I think that it's sound. I think it's sound advice. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that could think of a counter argument of why that's a bad idea.
That's what I'm saying. Some people have told me it's a bad idea, but I'm like,
the whole you know thing is kind of fairy tale a little bit.
Nah, because even in business, like I've hired people that I'm like, oh, this is my next rock star, blah, blah, blah. I'll be real. There were a couple people this past weekend, I let 2 people go and they only worked here for 2 weeks. Yeah. Because I'm of the mindset, like, hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
There's no point in me stretching this out. Like, if this person's identified they're not the right one for the team, I'm not going to continue to pace my
people, I think in job interviews and dating as well, are always putting their best foot forward
1000%.
for the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think you can date one. You probably don't learn a whole lot of real.
Yeah, no.
Pretty superficial at that point.
1000%.
I think the 36-month rule is good for a lot of things, but you learn a lot about. I'm also kind of not traditionalist, but I think you should live with somebody before you marry them too.
Same thing we did,
and we did that, and you learn a lot about somebody when you live with them.
Yep. I had to have that from my parents. My dad was a pastor since the day I was born, so I kept that under wraps from my parents for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's you got to test those things out, because it's
sure.
Is somebody going to flip out if I leave my underwear on the floor?
Yeah.
Those are things that you got to learn about a partner.
Yeah. And we not to tie it back to surf, but to tie it back to surf, one of the things we like about our onboarding process is a little longer than the other apps, because we're not a hot or not swipe, right? And this is kind of, if you search the grid by things you care about, and let's say you put in a few inputs where it's lives in Virginia, likes pickleball, wine, and golf, for example. And then the only profiles that pop up are someone that matches those criteria. So you have those things in common, right? And you're getting a layer deeper already than just, okay, this person's cute, or this person is attractive to me for whatever reason. Now we also know we have some underlying commonalities. You can then use that. I kind of joke that it's kind of like training wheels for the first move, and we've gotten some feedback from users on this that they say their first message on surf is way more productive because it's not hot bikini pick 3. It's, hey, she likes wine and pickleball. Why don't you say, meet me at Pouncey Track, let's have a glass of wine and play pickleball. Right? Go out, meet someone, hang out, get the first date. It's going to be more productive because you're doing something in common that you both like, and you can kind of fast track that 36-month a little bit.
Absolutely.
Get past the just caught my eye kind of swipe. Let's see where it goes. The shoot from the hip kind of thing. It's like, wait, okay, these are real things about you. And we even have, things down to religion. Go back to there's a pastor, put if religious values on your onboarding is important to you, you can check yes, and then you can put your religious belief specifically. If you want to share it, or you can just leave that you're a religious person or a faith-based person, and then that you can go by that. Or if one of our models at our shoot last week speaks Korean, and bilingual is super important to her that her partner is fluent in Korean. She was floored when I told her you could filter the grid by Korean-speaking people only. And she was like, well, I'm sold. Because it's these are the things that
it's been missing. Some
people are a little bit embarrassed, I've found, to say they met online, which is crazy, right? Because
the norm.
Over 60% of relationships now are started online.
I met my wife on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly, right? There's no difference, right? And it's all you're doing is making this, finding your person more efficient and upping your chances of success. If there's these things that you care about and you have to have in a relationship, and you can immediately filter the single pool with those things, and then get to the harder stuff, right? Leaving your toothbrush on the counter, like I get in trouble for all the time. The faster you get there, you figure out your chance at success at the 36-month mark, right?
Yeah, and I think we're now at a point. It's refreshing to hear this, because I think we're now at a point as a society, we don't like to waste time. I've seen people cuss out a microwave because a Hot Pocket takes 2 minutes to cook. We want what we want, and we want it right now. So it's if I was back in the dating world, being in business and the financial intelligence that I now have that I didn't have in my early 20s, one of the first things I want to know within the first 3 dates, what's your credit score? What kind of debt am I going to be working with here? If you got $500,000 in debt and you got a 520 credit score, boo, this ain't going nowhere. You may be hot, but we're not getting any further than that.
You would be like, nope.
My credit score before I got in business for myself, kid you not, was a 510. I was going to drive time and getting a 15-year-old vehicle and having to pay $600 a month for a beater that had over 100,000 miles on it.
I think I can't remember what my highest debt to income ratio was, but there was a point there where I was fully guaranteeing a big number, and I think I was bringing in $50K a year because there wasn't a lot to pay myself early on at River City Roll, and obviously back to the other people's money thing, when, you know, you haven't paid all your boys and girls back, it's kind of harder to justify a big salary to yourself, right? So, yeah, there was a point there where if girls were filtering by debt to income ratio, I would have been cooked.
Like, no.
I would have been at the bottom of everybody's list.
So talk to me about, like, you've been married for 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
You got kids?
Yep.
How old are your kids?
4-year-old daughter named Lily. She's the bomb. Our number one selling food item at River City Roll is a Lily pizza.
Nice.
Which is funny because it was called the Lily before my daughter was named Lily.
Oh, nice.
She thinks it's after her, and we'll let her believe it. Now I'm gonna have to, and my son Bobby's too, so I'll probably have to put a Bobby pizza on there now. You know, once he gets old enough to realize he doesn't have his name on the menu.
We're right at the same mark. My daughter Harper is 4 years old, and my son Jaden is 3 years old.
Incredible. Such a fun time.
I'm so glad we had them so close together. So when they get old, like now they're at the age where they can play with each other and they're doing all these things, and I can finally sit. Probably biggest advice I got from somebody about parenting, this is the realest thing I ever heard. They said, no one ever tells you when you become a parent how often you have to get up from the spot that you're sitting in.
Oh my God.
Like the second I'm like, you guys good? You got your snacks? All right.
They're never good.
Let me go lay down on the couch. Daddy, can I have a bottle of water? I was just in the kitchen. Why didn't you say something then?
Yeah.
Let's talk about like the balance of, because I think it's absolute bullshit when people like work-life balance.
Yeah.
When you're an entrepreneur, to me, there is no such thing, because there are times where the business is a little bit more on autopilot. Like, I mean, I basically cleaned house and I got a whole new staff in here that I haven't had in the last couple of years. So it's like, now I'm way more entrenched in my business than I have been the last year. And like tonight I have a seminar that I have to go to, so I'm not going to get home until 8 o'clock tonight, which normally I always like to be home 6 o'clock at the latest, get to hang out with the wife and kids, put them to bed at 8 o'clock. Me and the wife get a little time before she gets tired. She goes upstairs and I'm watching YouTube videos on like financial education and business development and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how that change has come for you in terms of building these businesses and making sure that you're giving attention to the right areas of your life when you need to.
No, I mean, you know, my daughter came at a time as like, you know, in a non-cliche way, life-saving, because it happened during COVID. When
Same here. We were just having sex during COVID. There was nothing else to do, man.
and I was in a tough mental space with River City Roll being closed.
Oh, yeah.
Having to go through a really hard experience, you know, letting go of basically my entire staff. You know, and saying, hey, I know this is coming. You need to get in the front of these unemployment lines. And I know that you don't believe me right now, but I'm trying to do this like on your best interest, right? And, you know, admittedly was drinking a little too much during those times, was kind of lost. And you know, my daughter came and it was like a lifesaver. And it was, here's what really matters.
Yeah, your why immediately changes.
It's so, and like, you know, I always kind of rolled my eyes when people said that. I do still roll my eyes at people who say like love at first sight, because like, come on, like
the mom,
that little
mom
alien,
has love at first
coming
sight
out and doesn't know who you are, and come on. But
the woman has love at first sight because she's been growing that in her belly.
Yeah.
We're just getting to see this thing for the first time, and it's like, oh, hold up, man, let me see if you're cool.
Yeah. My wife will kill me for telling this story, but my daughter was breached. I mean, she was upside down, so my wife had to have a C-section. And we had a scheduled date on a Wednesday. And this is my advice out there to everyone having kids now. There's no such thing as a scheduled date for babies. So my Tito's rep, Tito's Vodka, was like, all right, you need one more kind of weekend, you know, to let it rip before you become a dad. And you can't play golf and get hammered for a little bit. So me and my best boy, Wick, and 2 guys from Tito's went out to Independence Golf Club and had a day.
Nice.
On a Saturday. And my wife wakes up in the middle of the night, and I had probably been asleep for about, she wakes up at 3, I'd probably been asleep for about 2 hours. And is like, I'm having contractions. And I was like...
And you're still hammered at this
And I'm
point.
like hammered. Hammered. And I'm like, nah, like the thing's scheduled Wednesday, like go back to sleep, it's all right. Like we're doing this on Wednesday.
Put the baby back in your stomach.
And she's like, wake up. And she's like, we got to go. And I was like, so I go, I'm not taking this serious. Because, you know, Chef Brad is my boy. He had kind of just had a baby and they'd had a couple pump fakes thinking the baby was coming, but it wasn't. So I was like, my head was in the wrong space. I'm like, Brad just did this. They had to come home. He was annoyed. He woke up and he didn't need to go. And I was kind of being a jackass. And so I get in the shower and I'm like having a bowl of cereal like at 3 a.m. And like, then my wife is badass. I could talk about her for the whole hour, but she's tough. And she kind of had one of those contractions where it hurt. Yeah. And like I heard her like kind of make a noise that I'd never heard. So I was like, oh shit. Yeah. We got to go.
Yep.
And
you had to get an Uber, didn't you?
Should have. So I kind of was like, all right, well, you got to drive. She's like, you're driving. So I'm like, all right, gut check. Like, got to get to Henrico doctor. So we get there and the doctor hated me as she should have. Yeah. And I have on a Tito's mask. I'm like a wreck. And I don't really know what's going on. And I'm fully expecting that we're going home and not having a baby. Yeah. Right? And we're sitting in a little prep room or whatever. And I'm like sitting there like I'm wearing clothes like I'm wearing and I like jeans and a hoodie and have my Tito's mask on, look like a total clown, smell like Tito's. And doctor comes and is like, all right, we're going. I was like, hell yeah, going home. She's like, no. And he threw me some scrubs. I was like, get it together. Like, we're going into, this baby's coming right now. And I was like, oh shit, time to go. Well, luckily, looking back on it now, like because I was in such a loose headspace, I got I took some pretty crazy pictures of a C-section. Like, it's documented. Like, if Lily wants to see how she came into this world, I got it. Craziest pictures.
I told my wife I wasn't getting on that side. I filmed everything from over here.
Everyone told me that, but I was loose. Yeah. I have it all, like all on the tape, everything. So like, I can explain to my daughter how she was born in 25 photos.
Guys, this was such an amazing episode with Rob. Things went a little bit longer. We were really enjoying our conversation, so we're actually breaking this into part 2. So tune in next week for the second part of our conversation with Rob Long.